All right, Pete. So, big day tomorrow here. It's going to be hopefully not dramatic. That's the hope, is that it was not a dramatic situation. But
It might be traumatic, but hopefully not dramatic.
you know what? Last year, I remember last year, man, we were talking going into this game, like, how are we going to go live for all this time? We had just lost to Syracuse. The class was kind of nondescript. Thank God that Kellen Wiley came in unexpectedly and made it at least a little bit exciting on signing day. But I think this signing day, maybe not going to be exciting as far as like, you don't know what's going to happen, but in terms of just getting good players in, should be a good one, Pete. But and I'll start with you, what you're hearing before I get into some of the stuff I'm hearing as far as like what is really going to happen, like what's left to be done between now as we record this on Tuesday, 10 a.m., and then signing day tomorrow.
Karsten Busch, obviously, I mean, that's one that I think they feel really good about. I gotta say, when it comes to these visits, man, I really like what I see in terms of, I wouldn't call it a policy because obviously you've got to get a kid down here to get him to commit but the vibe I get on a lot of these players who committed to Miami late here or late flips is like, if you're coming down for a visit, you better be coming down because you have some serious interest about Miami. This is not a free trip. This is not obviously, again, you have to get the kid down here to see how they really feel in the environment and all that. But like, if a guy's coming down here, I feel good about Miami's chances of landing them for the most part with these official visits that they had here down the stretch with a lot of the guys that they've been trying to flip. I can't say that, like, they had to almost convince him, from what I understand, to come down here, D. But once it was done, they have felt good about that one. So, like, the chances there. Amari Latimer, and I saw your update. That one's a tough one for me, man, because a couple weeks ago, I think they felt 2-3 weeks ago, maybe closer to 3 weeks ago, they felt really strongly that one was close to happening. But those negotiations, from what I understand, have been tough. And that's what this is now at this stage, the day before signing it. That's what this is, the final negotiation. So let's see if they can get that one over the line. And they've definitely been swinging on these 5-star defensive linemen. As of right now, it's hard to say that it happens, but I'm not discounting a last minute. I don't want to call it move of desperation, but if we get the urge to do some dirty things there at the end, then I'm not counting anything out of the equation.
It's all legal now, so clean things, but certainly aggressive moves. But I would say I'm hearing pretty much the same. I'll alter one thing slightly based on my conversation last night. So this is as of last night. As we all know, this stuff changes pretty quick. I would agree that of the two, Karsten Busch is the one I feel better about in terms of I'm laying down money on one or the other. I think Karsten Busch, I feel pretty confident that Miami will be able to get that one done. But as of yesterday night, what I'm hearing is Miami's going to have a very good shot at Latimer as well. So if you ask me to pick right now, I would say the bigger odds are on Karsten Busch, the linebacker out of Louisville. But I would, right now, if I were to predict Tuesday, 10 a.m., I would say Busch and Latimer both. You're battling Wisconsin for both. They're kind of similar in a way, different positions, but it's like Karsten Busch, a Louisville kid, 6'2", 220, just tremendous length and size, very athletic, plays all over the defense, high verified measurables as well. Was committed to Louisville, his hometown team. Wisconsin got in the mix there. Wisconsin is the biggest competition, but like you mentioned, he came down. It's hard to lose those kids when they come down, especially coming off a win like we had and great weather and everything else. So I think Busch, exactly what Heatherman's looking for with length, athleticism, verified measurables, versatility. He's played a lot of off-ball linebacker. We've seen linebackers where it's like, hey, we'll take a defensive end and make him a linebacker. There's an actual linebacker who has versatility. So I think that one's looking good, and great senior film like all these guys. Another senior riser with Amari Latimer, 230-pound running back out of Georgia. Again, these are both 4-star players. You're battling Wisconsin for both, which is not a good sign with the way Wisconsin has played lately, but they're both 4-star players and rising players with good senior film. Latimer from Georgia, he had like 2,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 10-plus yards a carry as a senior. I'm told he had some of the best running back film in the country as a senior. Certainly the highlights I've seen back that up. Basketball player, he can go up and get it, but a big back as well. So I think if you can get these two, you've really improved the length, the athleticism, because Latimer's not a burner, but he's a basketball player. He's very coordinated. He can do different things. Just the overall athletic ability and length and size of your running back and linebacker rooms. Maybe still need a little bit more dynamic running back to add to the mix to complement Pringle in case Pringle were to go down. But otherwise, I think those would be two huge, huge additions to the team.
Yeah, I would say Latimer is 50-50, but they need running back. They really do, and I think they're going to get someone in the portal as well. So that's going to be it's going to be an interesting one to see.
Yeah, and someone's asking about Latimer's brother. So those who are wondering why Wisconsin would be in the mix for a guy like Latimer, his brother plays there. He's a defensive back there. He'll be a senior next year for Wisconsin. So that's why you see Latimer there. And yeah, as far as the big defensive lineman, at one point, I remember on this podcast I talked about, I think we have a good chance at a blue chip. At that time, I was referring to Nolan Wilson. There was a lot of positive conversations from him as far as potentially flipping from Alabama to Miami, but those are tough flips, and ultimately that one lost a little bit of steam. I'm not expecting either a Bryce Perry Wright or a Tank Jones or a kind of
Miami's been at least I know with Tank Jones, Miami's definitely been in contact with him the last few days. So
yeah, and we'll see. Hopefully something good happens. I know that California job, I can't pronounce the name. Pete, maybe you can do a better job, but Tosh, the defensive coordinator from Oregon, Tupoi has been rumored to potentially take that Cal head coach job. Tank Jones being a defensive player who's recruited in large part by Lupoi. Could that impact it? I don't know. I don't know if that would come to a head before the signing day. I don't know if he's holding his cards close to the vest. The offensive coordinator, Stein, already took the Kentucky job. So you wonder what Lupoi would be waiting for.
Stephen Heath asking about Connor Liu, potentially in the portal center. Obviously, it was committed to Miami a few years ago. I would keep that one on the radar.
Yeah, I would too. By the way, I did hear, so in terms of the portal stuff, I want to, as we're going through this information, with the portal, something to keep in mind is you have your retention period, right? So the way the calendar worked out, in some ways it's terrible, as we saw with the Lane Kiffin fiasco. In some ways it actually works out pretty good. I think this would be one of them where you have signing day tomorrow, 30 plus players into your class, into your team. So you got to figure that out. That's a big budgetary component. That's a big just roster component. So you know who's there. Then now knowing who's in the recruiting class, you get to roster retention. Who do we need to keep? Right? Who are the guys we need to keep? Who we're going to fight for? Who's going to get a raise? Who's going to, like the whole thing. It's a quasi salary cap era. Money's not infinite. Even there was no cap. So you got to figure out who we keep and how we're keeping them. Miami did very well last year. The only one you lost was Isaiah Horton, really. So you hope to kind of focus on that part of it, get that done. Then once you have the retention part done and the class done, now you say, all right, now who do we need in the portal? Right. And you're able to do that with a clear mind as you head into January in this very tight, in terms of there's only one portal period, but there's prep time to kind of get ready for it. So that's what I'm seeing with the way it's all lined up, is that first is class, then's retention, then is portal, whether it's a Connor Liu or who else. I'll tell you this. I heard two guys that I heard very good stuff about yesterday. Max Buchanan at guard, the safety, or the freshman from Seminole in Central Florida, and S.J. Al-Fatuli, who's played a lot of fullback for Miami. He's got to get his snaps together. He was a guard in high school, struggled with snaps since he's been here. That needs to, obviously, if he's going to play center, which is what his body is suited for, he needs to get those snaps right. But I heard good things about both of those players. Some other guys, before I hand it back over to you, Pete, that I heard good stuff about. These are guys in the recruiting class: Darian Coleman, Samorian Wingo, the offensive line class in general, the tight end class in general, Keyshawn Stansel, Camden Portis at nickel. Heard he has great character, great senior film. So there's some guys that I'm just hearing about as far as good senior tape, and guys that Miami's really excited about just based on what they did as seniors, but they're excited about a lot of guys. So I don't know if there's anything else you got on this class, or just the buzz.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's probably we pretty much hearing the same stuff there. I want to bring up this comment from Canes fan Brandon. He says, got to talk about the whiffs the last 2 years. Yeah, man, you've had a lot of them. You're at number 10 class in the country right now. And I think, look, last year's class came in at number 14, obviously as has performed at a really high level. So a lot of overachieving in terms of the rankings go there. But yeah, man, you've missed out on a lot of local talent. You've missed out on Derek Cooper. You've missed out on a Ben Hanks. You've missed out on a Calvin Russell. People can say what they want about him now. I still believe in him long term. And still, to me, you're missing out on these. It doesn't look like right now you're going to land one of these 5-star defensive linemen. I like the classes they've brought in, and I really like the body types they've brought in, D. But yeah, they've missed on a lot of guys. And again, so I will keep bringing this up, and you can argue it. And I'm not saying you, but people can argue this one way or another. Miami right now, in terms of team composite talent, which takes into account the portal rankings as well as the high school rankings for these guys who are on the roster out of high school. Miami had the 15th most talent in the country this year. You need to get that into the top 7 to 10. You need to recruit top 7 classes year after year. I love what's going on evaluation wise. I think they're hitting at a very high clip, but you need to land top 5 to 7 classes a year, D. You may not agree with that, but I think it needs to continue to trend that way. I think back-to-back 10-win seasons will help that, because you have something to really, because those first 2 years you're recruiting off of hope, right? And the recruiting classes the first couple of years were higher ranked than these last couple of years, right? So I think now you have a real foundation to build upon. How do they take that next step? Now, this is something I've heard, D, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this. This staff has not been able to use the draft as a recruiting pitch. They have not been able to use the draft as a recruiting pitch. Historically, that stuff, historical draft numbers look great, but in terms of recent history, they haven't. I think after this year, you now have, after Ward goes number 1 last year, Carson Beck going to get picked again. Bain and Mawanoa, hopefully here in the first round. The narrative starts to change a little bit. You haven't had anything. You have not been able to sell that as a real recruiting pitch if you're this staff. You can recruit it. You can say, hey, look what we did at Oregon, but you haven't been able to do it at Miami. I think that starts to change now too. As crazy as it sounds, us as fans think, man, Miami, NFLU, but that hasn't been the case, even though they have put out in recent years. Like, we can talk about the on-field success, but we also need to talk about what's happened in the draft. The top 100 picks have not been there. That makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one thing that will change over time, but you have to prove it over time. This year is going to help. Next year will help, hopefully. You got to kind of stack those years for that to be a better pitch. It gets better every year. But yes,
I'll throw Jason Lopez as a whiff too. I know, again, it may not look like one is now, but that's a miss to me.
Yeah, no, a couple things. So I agree and disagree with something you said. I mean, the total talent composite, the way they calculate that, just stupid. Like, I mean, when you add our portal to it, if you look at like draft numbers, if you look at look at what Nick Saban
do they not use the portal rankings?
The portal, it's just the portal rankings are just a system that's not very accurate at the moment. It's getting better, but the way they do it is just, it's not integrated right. I mean, to tell me we're the 15th most talent in the country, that doesn't jive. Like, when the NFL draft happens, I guarantee you we're going to be higher than 15th in terms of total draft picks. You look at a Nick Saban, his comments that we'd be the most dangerous team in the country because of our talent. That's his words. That doesn't jive with 15th ranked talent composite, where I agree. I just think that's that I don't really put any stock into. I think that they just are bad at it. What I agree with you, Pete, is, you want to be getting in that top 5, top 7 high school class rank.
Yeah, high school.
Yeah, that sure. I agree with. And I think,
but if you get there, then you're closer. You're not top 15. You're closer to the top 10 is what I'm saying.
And Mario would agree with that. I mean, they would all agree with that. He came in to get top. He cares about recruiting rankings too, I promise you. So they cared about, now sometimes they're wrong. I mean, Malachi Tony being a 3-star, he's the best freshman in America. But on the whole, I think everybody, if they're being honest, would say we want to be close to that top 5, especially with the defensive tackles, the Tank Jones kind of guys, the Bryce Perry-Wright kind of guys. You saw Justin Scott, what he does as a 5-star, and that talent kind of really start to show over time. So I agree with you on the high school. I think there's a very good class. I think our evaluation has been good, but you want more from a.
I'll say this: Davon Mayfield says I need to get my information. He says Miami is the best young safety in the NFL. The Rams safety. This is a nasty site. Get your information updated. Hey, guess who came to Miami partly because of Cam Kitchens? You remember who had an impact on him? Who he had an impact on? Bryce Fitzgerald. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. That was that he spoke to him before he committed it, and from what I understand, had an impact on his decision. D. So yeah, it does make a difference. We need more of those impact players in the league.
Yeah,
We really do.
And if Cam Kitchens makes a Pro Bowl, which I think he should, he's playing outstanding. I guarantee you, not only will Miami's social media blow it up, the coaches will send those tweets and those Instagrams to safeties they're recruiting. So they use it. King David, man, appreciate your support. He said, I'll take 5 to 7 3-star guys like Malachi Tony every year. I'll take 30 of them. I'll take as many as you could get. But yeah, definitely appreciate that. No, the evals have been good, but I agree, Pete. Look, there's a reason why recruiting rankings are important and correlate with success. You got to get high school guys. I would say in terms of whiffs, the last 2 years. So let's say what's that, 25 and 26. South Florida is weird, Pete. I want to get your thoughts on this because I've been the biggest South Florida homer since forever. I do think it's down on the whole. And I think guys like Diabell, Calvin Russell, Derek Cooper are very good players. I think they're all have a chance to be really, really good players. Guys that if they were in this class, I'd be happy about it. But, I don't know if the price tag that they command at this time matches their present ability. I think they could be worth it at the end of the day, but I think all those guys are maybe a little more developmental than the usual guys you see at that ranking and price tag. Like Cooper could definitely be that, but there's some development there. Russell, I think there's a lot of development there, but if it hits, it'll be great. Diabell, he's been injured, so you haven't really seen it happen. I like him, but he hasn't played. So I think that's gone a little, like these aren't Jeremiah Smith types where they're sure things. With that, all that said, and I was talking about this with my boy Go Get It on the CanesInSight board yesterday. 4 out of the 10 best players in college football today, as we sit here right now, Pete, I don't know if anyone would disagree with this, that 4 of the top 10 players in the sport period, Jeremiah Smith, Fernando Mendoza, and then our guys, Malachi Tony and Ruben Bain, they're all Dade County guys. So I would say 4 of the top 10 players in college football consensus. Maybe someone would have thought about Tony because he was a freshman, but now you've seen what he's done through the year. He's one of the top 10 players in the sport. I'm sorry. So 4 of those top 10 players in Florida in the whole sport of college football from Dade County. So, we got to do a better job. Bryce Fitzgerald last year too, another one that we got that ended up being really, really good. So we're getting good ones. I think overall the area is not as deep as it used to be. The one that I keep saying I think we're going to regret is Jason Lopez. And for those in the comments, Mario really wanted Jason Lopez. Like we wanted Jason Lopez. I think the problem with Jason Lopez, and Pete, you're the basketball insider. It just felt to me like if you look at the 2-sport recruiting, not the football recruiting. If it was Mario versus Norvell, Lopez would be a Cane. I think the 2-sport approach that FSU took to him sold him better than our 2-sport approach. That's how I have to read it. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, look, I'm a fan of Lopez as a basketball player, and I think he can play and have a role at Florida State. Jay Lucas is a point guard. Jay Lucas is recruiting. He hasn't landed them yet, but the point guards he's recruiting like 4 of the top 5 point guards in the country. He's going to bring in a high level point guard, and you're going to be really like. To play point guard at Miami under Jay Lucas, you got to be fully committed to it. And I don't know that. Again, we saw him on the pictures on the basketball visit and all that, and he would have had a spot on the team. Like they wouldn't have said, "Hey, he can't even put on a jersey and practice with us." But I think Florida State sold him a more, in his view, realistic way to get on the court as well, which. At a certain point, he's probably going to have to make the decision for what he wants to focus on. But, yeah, I think this will be a loss.
Yeah. And look, if someone's asking to compare him to Vance, obviously, Jason Lopez, Cuban, Vance Fafford, white guy, they're kind of slot receivers. I can see the comp. They're different to me. They're both highly productive. I'll say that. Both of those guys are like, 1,300-plus yard guys in their best season. Vance was injured this year, but they're both very, very productive. I would say the difference is they're both good route runners. I think Vance is faster. Neither guy's really that good with the ball in their hands. Like, I don't think they're like a Malley where you throw them these screens and they make it happen. I think they're more route runners and just receivers. They're not after the catch guys, even though Vance has that 4.3 speed.
My question on Spafford is how he fills out, D, because the injuries have been, and again, we've said it hasn't been like a serious injury from what I understand, but the nagging injuries, which are a sign of just, needing to put some good weight on. And then how does he move once he adds that weight, right? Is it the same explosiveness that we've seen in high school? Some guys just don't have the frame to add the weight. I'm not saying he doesn't, but we'll see what happens when he gets on campus and starts to work himself into that frame.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think if with the difference between Lopez and Spafford will be if you're sending them on a post route or just a go ball, Spafford's just faster. Lopez isn't slow. He's faster than Restrepo, who he made plenty of plays downfield. But I think Spafford just a different level speed, just running down the field. They both run good routes. They both are good hands catchers. I think contested catch, Lopez is really, really good, especially for a guy who's not like 6'5", because he is a basketball player and he has really good hands and he's like strong. He has good core strength. So he kills on those contested catches and he can also separate with Vance being the better down the field player. But if Vance is healthy, they're two of the best receivers in the country, in my opinion. Vance got to get healthy, and then we'll see what happens to Lopez. Maybe he goes in the portal after FSU collapses.
Drago says somebody making a bad decision is not a loss. Sorry, Pete. Listen, whether it's a bad decision in our eyes or not, it doesn't really matter. To me, it's a loss. I think every guy has a decision to make. Some Canes fans were saying Jeremiah Smith, not comparing the players at all, but some Canes fans were saying Jeremiah Smith was not making the smart decision going to Ohio State, and it worked out all right for him.
Yeah, no, as far as like whiffs, the real whiffs, if we're talking about this, and I like to be positive, but we've got to be real. I said that the real whiffs have been Jeremiah Smith. I mean, I think if Jeremiah Smith, first of all, I think if Jeremiah Smith came out this year, as opposed to 2 years ago when he came out, 3 years ago, he's a Cane. Like, I think he wanted to be a Cane. We just hadn't shown what we have now shown, right? With the Malachi Tonys, with the Cam Wards, with the success we've had on offense. So I think Jeremiah Smith, if he was a senior this year, he's a Cane all day. Don't even worry about it. He was this close to being a Cane when we were really bad, coming off like Middle Tennessee State and all that. So unfortunately, or I guess that was coming off the TVD year, but that's a whiff that changed college football, because if he doesn't go to Ohio State doesn't win the championship, and Miami's probably the best team in the country this year. I think an Isaac Brown, right?
Massive whiff.
Yeah, given that we took 2 running backs
Bad
that year.
eval, massive whiff, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you took 2 running backs that year. You got to get Isaac Brown. So that would be a big one. Dylan Stewart. Now that's a whiff that you're swinging at a fast pitch, right? I mean, there's a lot of teams trying to get Dylan Stewart, but we worked really hard on that one. Didn't get that done. He's one of the best players in the country.
Ben Hanks.
He's still got to show it. I mean, he hasn't played, so I'm not sure.
He's played. He's playing.
He did? Is he really?
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe I'm wrong. I loved him.
Played the last few games and apparently looked pretty good. So
I loved him out of high school.
Jabari Flowers, same thing, has looked pretty good. I mean, it's hard to classify those as whiffs just yet, but those are misses.
Yeah, and I think
DJ Pickett's that's what we got to put there. Pickett's up there with Jeremiah. Jeremiah's in a league of his own, but to me, Pickett's right underneath it out of all the guys we've missed on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Vincent Shaver, someone mentioned, different than a Pickett, but as far as like being a linebacker that could probably play here, that's a good one. A lot of the whiffs have just been big battles that we fought that we didn't get. Like Colin Simmons, we fought hard, we didn't get him. Guys like that. But you want some of those too. But I think, Isaac Brown, given the fact that we took 2 backs that year, Jeremiah Smith, because it just changed college football. Connor Lew.
Hard for me to call Vernell Brown a whiff, Canes fan Brandon, with the fact that his dad is an alum. Like to me, that was an uphill battle.
Yeah, Connor Lew, though, I would say, Pete, you brought him up as a transfer candidate. He's one of the, he was committed and he went to Auburn, and he's one of the best centers in the country. So that's one. Even though we brought in transfers and we played overall, I think that's one. Yeah, Kyle Muncie, I agree with you. This is a controversial take, I guess, but I agree. CJ Bailey, we took a quarterback that year.
Sure. No, that's
that we could have taken him.
But again, like I think CJ Bailey made the right decision. He wasn't gonna start at Miami.
Yeah, and then we'll have a lot of time. I did a lot of portal work yesterday, Pete. I was watching a ton of film, just trying to get a feel for all these top quarterbacks. I think I think we got a lot of good options, man. I mean, Levitt, if he's healthy, is really dynamic. I'm a Bailey believer. I think he's a clean fit. Sorsby's going to get a lot of interest from, I don't know who. I think he probably should go pro, but he could be a guy that you look at. Kind of reminds me of a tier, Sorsby. They're from the same part of Texas, I believe, and they just have a similar playing style. Sellers, my big takeaway watching Sellers last year, I went back and watched some of his games, which, by the way, are hard to watch, that offense. But I thought the biggest mistake they made with Sellers is, like, if you get a Sellers, and I think his talent's off the charts, and I like his character too, you got to, like, have a quarterback run element to what he does. You can't just have him drop back and treat him like a pocket passer. Maybe he put South Carolina over a barrel and said, you have to develop me this way. But to me, I'm showing him film of Jalen Hurts, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and saying, look how Jalen Hurts played in high school, in college. That's how you should play. You should be running it just as much as he did.
Yep. So we'll see what happens.
All right, real quick before we get out of here, a shout out to the Miami Hurricane team store, and your boy right here, Dante Allen, his second career posing with the jersey.
Big one tonight.
Yeah, let's the transition. But yeah, promo code INSIGHT20 at Miami Hurricane team store, in person or online at MiamiHTS.com. Use promo code INSIGHT20. Get 20% off your first item for all your holiday shopping. But yeah, Dante Allen and the boys got a big one tonight, Pete. You can do a reaction show at midnight. This is gonna be a late night with that 9 o'clock start.